Now we get a lot of pushback for building a full-size closet and not a shower.
So we went with a fixed bed because we wanted to have a lot of storage.
This actually also turns into our dinette space. So we had a lot of trial and error with our first build that made every decision very intentional in this space.
I'm Gene.
I'm Shay.
And we're gonna give you a tour of our 2003 Girardin minibus.
So welcome inside our bus. So when you first walk in, you are met with our kitchen, which definitely takes up the most space inside of the bus. We did this because we both really like cooking. We've actually been on the road for 3 years in another vehicle, and our kitchen was super tiny. It kind of made cooking not as enjoyable. And so we really wanted to add in features like a 3-burner propane stove with a deep oven, lots of different drawer storage, and this deep farmhouse sink. This is also because we don't like to do our dishes right away. And so having a big space to have a few meals worth of dishes just made life a little bit easier for us. We also added a nice stand-up fridge in this one and a freezer. Before we had a trunk fridge and everything was falling to the bottom. And so we had a lot of trial and error with our first build that made every decision very intentional in this space. We really wanted to fill the entire space with a lot of different vintage pieces. We have a lot of these like old coffee tins, old books, like everything in here is essentially secondhand and thrifted. So I know that we wanted a lot of storage in the kitchen, but sometimes the big bulky overhead cabinet space can kind of make the space seem smaller. Since we decided to go with a shorter bus, we wanted to have as much open storage as possible. So we just built this little shelf here for different spices and some decor and stuff using plywood, and then leftover planks, like tongue and groove planks that we had for other parts of the build that you'll see. It was super easy. Gene made this in an afternoon and it is fully functional, and none of these fall when we're driving because it's actually a pretty deep shelving space. We have a lot of storage in here, but one thing that's interesting is even though we have tripled our storage in here, we still find that we could always use more, and luckily there is some more space where we could add some more shelving. And I just think that we have a lot of stuff. A lot of people think that you have to be a minimalist to live in a bus or a van, and we are not at all. My favorite thing about the kitchen is actually the color that we painted it. I know that a lot of different builds that we've seen, they want to keep it light and airy, so it's a lot of whites and tans, which we did do with the walls, but I wanted to bring in these cozy, woodsy fall feelings with some of these like deeper like wine reds colors and the antique brass hardware pieces. We have been together for 4 years and we've lived on the road for about 3.5. So we started living on the road together very early on into our relationship.
We are from the East Coast. I'm from New Jersey.
I'm from Pennsylvania. So we both met in Philadelphia. And in 2020, when the world shut down a little bit, we started talking about if we wanted to buy a van. So we lived in a van for 3 years with us and our 2 cats, Bean and Sprout. And we kind of knew that we wanted to stay on the road, but we wanted a bigger space.
So we upgraded to a schoolie.
We've been in here for 3 months now. So the bus itself, we paid $11,500 for, and then it had a few school bus seats in it still. So we had to completely demo it, and all in with our electrical and all of our little bells and whistles. We put another 20 grand into it.
Yes.
So we're a little above 30 right now, all in.
Yes.
So welcome to our living room. Having a couch space was very, very important to us because I love lounging on the couch at night, watching our shows, eating dinner. So we have these 4-inch just memory foam cushions that we made. It was super easy and DIY, cost about $25. So this is a nice long couch and also can double as a guest bed. This actually also turns into our dinette space. So it's where we eat our meals or where we work all day, which is really nice to be able to change that up. It feels like you're redecorating your room when you're little. And that was like my favorite thing to do always. This is also where we house our under-mounted 12-volt AC unit. We went with the cruising comfort, so it's not very bulky. We just have this little thing right here and it really cools down the space on a hot day. The reason we went with an undermounted one was because a lot of those big rooftop units, AC units, they do take up more space that could be used for solar or a roof deck. And so when we saw one that could go underneath the bus and just take up a dinette chair, we were like, okay, that is the one for us. So we're still in the living room section of the bus, but we have moved over to what is stored underneath this dinette chair, which is our cat's litter box. It is one of our most asked questions we get when we tell people we live in a bus with 2 cats is, oh my God, isn't the litter box situation so gross? So we built them a little litter throne. We thrifted, once again, this old-fashioned toilets sign, and we wanted to make a pretty little entranceway for them. It's a pretty deep space, and all we have to do to clean it is just lift up this cushion right here, and then the chair lifts up and we can scoop out the litter every single day. It's very manageable. When you start making your way to the back of the bus, you are met with these areas. This is my closet. Now we get a lot of pushback for building a full-size closet and not a shower, but it was worth it for me. We both have a lot of clothes, and having a closet space was something that I really wanted. We shower perfectly fine at gyms and truck stops and rest stops, and this is something that was a non-negotiable for me. It was one of my things that I definitely wanted in the bus, and I couldn't be happier. Having hangers and all of this drawer storage for my clothes was a great decision, and I stand by it. So when you turn around here, it's the exact same design, except for this one houses our pantry. In my mom's home growing up, she had a deep pantry where all of the different drawer spaces pulled out. And I always remember thinking that was like so fancy. And so I asked Gene if they thought that we could build something like that in a bus. And I love the layout so much. We can have 2-3 weeks worth of dry food storage in here, which is nice because then we can stay at beautiful spots like this for longer without running to town. Right underneath our pantry is where we store our compost toilet. We really wanted a compost toilet in the bus. In the van, we had a bucket toilet where we would have to go out and source bathrooms all the time. And in the middle of the night, that's just not what I want to do, whether it's for safety reasons or because I'm lazy. Having a nice toilet in here was something I really wanted. We went with the Cuddy compost toilet. These toilets are so expensive, and so it is definitely something that you want to weigh the pros and cons on, but for us, we really like it, and it just makes it, again, feel more like a real home with kind of a bathroom. I think that if you want to start this lifestyle, you don't need to spend $30,000 on a bus that's completely renovated. Get your car, put a mattress in the back, go on a weekend trip, just like exploring the lifestyle a little bit, because all the bells and whistles are really nice, but it isn't exactly what encompasses the lifestyle. It's getting out there, seeing beautiful spaces, meeting people. We've met so many friends on the road in the last almost 4 years, and that's really my favorite part of it.
And then also making sure you're downloading all those apps like Seeker, iOverlander, and stuff like that, so that when you hit these spots that don't have internet, you are prepared to kind of know where you need to go next.
Yeah, don't be afraid to be uncomfortable. We were running into so many issues in our first few weeks and first few months, and a lot of people get really scared and discouraged. Like, it looks so much easier online. Everything is going to look easier online, but reach out to people. Social media is your friend. A lot of people in this lifestyle, I've learned, are very willing to help, and we've all been through it, so you can do it.
Yes.
So welcome to our bedroom space. This was an area that we wanted to be a lot lighter and calmer and peaceful with a lot of the darker colors, and the rest of the bus, we kind of made it a little bit lighter back here so we could wake up in a positive mood. We have a short queen, it's called. It's actually custom for buses and RVs. So we get the width of the queen, but it's a little shorter because you'll see that we have a little bit of storage behind our heads here, which was really important. Again, maximizing storage for us was huge with 2 people living in a pretty small space. Something that was very, very important to us when we were looking for buses was one that had a side door and a back door for us. We really like to be able to pull up somewhere and point the end of our bed towards the most beautiful view in the area so that we can wake up and just open these side doors and look out at mountains or beaches or deserts, anything like that. It is one of my favorite things to do in the morning with a cup of coffee. And I'm very happy that we found one that had those double doors at the end.
We are in our garage. So we went with a fixed bed because we wanted to have a lot of storage. We have a lot of things. On the left here, I have my drum kit. It's a Roland TD17. I've been drumming for about 24 years, so I knew hitting the road, I needed something that was smaller and easier to set up. I made this little shelf here to handle all of my Makita tools and stuff like that. So we sadly filled this up pretty quickly. So we do go through it pretty often and clear out what we don't necessarily use. We give it about 2 weeks, and if we haven't used it, we'll get rid of it to clear up some of that space. We're still in the garage, but we are in the electrical section of our garage. We went with 4 Dakota lithium 200 amp hour batteries. We wanted to make sure that we had more than enough power to power everything. We don't want to wake up in the middle of the night and all of a sudden our batteries have died. So we made sure that we had lots and lots of power. We have a 60 amp Sunflow charge controller over here and 800 watts of solar up on top. And then we went with the 3000 watt 12 volt inverter.
Right now, our full-time job on the road is social media content creation. We do YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. But I will say that when we first got on the road, that certainly wasn't the case. We were living off savings, and I had lost my job during 2020, so I had some unemployment. And when we were through our savings, we started using apps like Winolo and Instawork. I really cannot recommend either of those enough. We were able to pick up odd jobs and gigs, and we would stay in one spot, and we'd stay for about a month and then travel, which was really, really helpful for us.
Yes. So you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Gene and Shay.
And then at YouTube, it's also Gene and Shay. We share a lot about living on the road as a queer couple. We share a lot about living on the road with 2 cats. And yeah, just feeling comfortable in the uncomfort of life on the road. We try and share the good and the bad and all the resources.
Keep it realistic for you guys, for sure.